On one of the coldest days of the winter so far, the warmth between these two university leaders is apparent as they walk to our interview in La Fortune Student Center. Father Bob Dowd, University President, and Reverend Hugh Page, the Vice President of Institutional Transformation, have a long history as colleagues, both called to a vocation in ministry and higher education. They talk with me about the university's commitment to creating a place where everyone feels they can belong in this episode of Notre Dame Stories. Welcome to Notre Dame Stories, the official podcast of the University of Notre Dame. Here we take you along the journey where curiosity becomes a breakthrough for people using knowledge to be a means for good in the world. Father Dowd, Dr. Page, thank you so much for the conversation we're about to have. It's great to be with you both today. Father Bob, you're a Catholic priest in the Congregation of Holy Cross, and Dr. Page, you're an Episcopal priest. How do your vocations serve, I wonder, as foundations for your commitment to the issues of justice, to human dignity, and to love?
You want to start, Hugh?
Well, sure. I think for the work that I do as a cleric, as a scholar, as a teacher, as an academic administrator, the through line for me is the building of community, the fostering of relationship, and the identification of the core teachings of the gospel, especially around love, and making those the animating force of everything that I do, whether I'm working in a parish on a Sunday or teaching a class, mentoring students, or being involved in campus meetings.
Yeah, and I think, Hugh just shared, just sort of a beautiful idea of what I think priesthood is all about and what ministry in the church is all about. And yeah, for me, I think priests in a special way are called to be bridge builders. I talked a lot about bridge building in my inaugural address a few months ago. And priests in a particular way are called to be bridge builders. Hopefully priests help people to connect with God and with each other. And certainly when I was growing up, that's what priests did for me. And no doubt my own calling to the priesthood was inspired by my interaction with priests who were very good bridge builders. And I think that here at Notre Dame, as I mentioned in my inaugural address, we're all called to be bridge builders. I think our Catholic mission calls us to be bridge builders. Although priests are bridge builders in particular ways, all of us are called to build bridges in one way or another. So I really, certainly my commitment to making sure that Notre Dame is a place where all the members of our community feel at home is grounded in my own idea, my own vocation as a priest, as well as president of the university.
Dr. Page, you serve as Vice President of Institutional Transformation and advisor to the President, of course. Can you talk about what institutional transformation really means?
Yeah, now, I made some notes because I don't want to embarrass myself or my colleagues in the theology department, but I think of this as fundamentally a theological enterprise. And so for me, institutional transformation is an eschatological journey toward becoming the very best version of ourselves at any given point in time. And that it reflects at least four things. So first, the ethical mandate for love that we find at the heart of the Christian tradition. Second, the global church, the most diverse institution in the world, some would argue. Third, the voices of the marginalized, the minoritized, and those who are rendered voiceless in our larger world. And this is fully resonant with the notions at the heart of Catholic social tradition. So it's a journey toward becoming the very best version of Notre Dame in conversation with those three areas at the heart of it.
And transforming from the inside out, and that's how we impact our world.
Absolutely.
Right?
And, it's an iterative process. So it's transformation that involves dialogue, transformation, in the words of Father Bob, that involves creating pathways and bridge building. And it's an internal process, an external process, and has to fully engage us for the foreseeable future.
Now, Father Bob, at a time when some institutions are distancing themselves from initiatives that are aimed at inclusion, the commitment here at Notre Dame is strong and remains strong. I've heard you talk about the commitment to ensuring that every student that arrives on our campus feels like they belong as being the heart of our mission. Can you speak more about that?
Sure. I think that for us, our efforts to ensure that Notre Dame is an inclusive community is grounded in our mission. It's grounded in our Catholic mission. And so we want to make sure that everyone who's a member of the Notre Dame family here, everyone who's part of our campus community feels at home. Now, some of us have been around longer than others. There's no doubt about that. I've been here quite a long time, and many other people have been around here quite a long time. But that doesn't mean that Notre Dame, quote unquote, belongs to us. Notre Dame is named in honor of Our Lady, of Mary, the Mother of God, Mary, the Mother of Jesus. And if it belongs to anybody, it belongs to her. And when we look at her image on the top of the dome, we see her hands open, her arms outstretched in welcome. And she certainly, I would think, wants everybody to feel at home. And we need to do everything our best to exemplify that spirit of Notre Dame, to have those open arms and making sure that everybody feels valued and everybody feels at home here. So for us here at Notre Dame, our efforts in promoting inclusion and a spirit of welcome and belonging is grounded in our Catholic mission, in our identity as Notre Dame, an institution of learning that is named in honor of Our Lady.
Certainly she embraced new ideas.
Yeah, that's right.
She?
Absolutely.
Yes. Having heard you both speak, you both tend to talk about similar themes, I would say. Father Bob, you mentioned your building bridges and talking about building bridges in your inauguration speech. And also our Notre Dame Forum theme this year is what do we owe each other? And Dr. Page, you talk about frequently building this beloved community at Notre Dame, both ideas where we're talking about how we are called to care for one another. Do you see those similarities in these themes that are so at the heart of what you both do? And I would just invite you to speak to each other about that, starting with you, Father Bob.
Sure. Well, I think the theme, what do we owe each other? It's a question that I thought a lot about. And, just before becoming president, I decided, together with others, that this would be the theme for our Notre Dame Forum for this year. In our society, there's a great deal of emphasis on rights and freedoms, and we're really blessed with rights and freedoms. They're really important. Rights and freedoms are important in any decent society, individual rights and freedoms. But it's also important for us to remember our responsibilities towards one another. And I think our efforts in terms of institutional transformation are very much grounded in concern for one another, accompanying one another, right, helping one another to grow, recognizing that we owe each other respect. Each one of us is a child of God, and everyone who makes up our community is a child of God. And it's important for us to recognize that and to treat each other as such. And so I think that for me, our efforts are very much grounded, as I mentioned, in our Catholic mission, which I think invites this question, what do we owe each other? And it informs how we answer it. We owe each other respect. We owe each other care and concern. And so I really want Notre Dame to be a community where we accompany each other well, where we support one another and encourage one another. And if we can be that beloved community that cares for one another and supports one another, I have no doubt that Notre Dame's going to be a place of amazing growth in terms of intellectual growth, in terms of social growth, and in terms of spiritual growth. And that's what it means to be Notre Dame.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think in terms of the conception of love as a fully embodied, other-centered enactment of one's duty of compassionate care, where one attempts to create a sense of connectedness with all those with whom one comes in to contact and extends oneself in a way that ensures the well-being of another. And in my mind, that we owe one another that. And communities that are grounded in that kind of ethic tend to thrive. And especially during times when there's so much division in our larger world, where there's so many questions that really exercise people, and where there's a desire, sometimes not fully realized, to connect with one another. This notion of being a community that can model that kind of connection, where those who are our students, our faculty, and our staff can show the larger world what it means to be a community engaged in research and teaching and learning and service to the larger community. And where our students can carry that model into the workplace, into all of the activities that they undertake once they become alums.
Do you see specific examples or have one in mind, either on campus or beyond, that speak to what you're saying and inspire you?
Yeah, there's so much good work going on campus that I'm loath to identify a single place because there's so many others that may feel left out. So I'll draw on those with which I have the most direct contact. So I think our diversity practitioners group, this is a great example of good work going on. And then the work of the Initiative on Race and Resilience in the College of Arts and Letters and the Department of Africana Studies, which I'm involved in individually, are also wonderful examples of units that are doing work to bring the community together and to think strategically and holistically about what it means to be a beloved community, what it means to do work that has implications not just for our own campus community, but for the larger Michiana and national and international communities.
Is there something that comes to mind for you, Father Bob?
Yeah, recently we had a prayer service. It was the day after the election. We had planned to have that prayer service well in advance of the election. We were going to go forward with the prayer service regardless of the outcome. And for me, that was a really inspiring prayer service, because when I looked out at those present, it was a real mixture of the Notre Dame community. And we had the leader of the college Republicans and the leader of the college Democrats present. And we had students of different ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds and religious backgrounds. And to me, that really spoke to the spirit of Notre Dame. We were all gathered in prayer, dedicating ourselves to working together to serve the common good. And to build a greater sense of community across our differences. I think it's important not to minimize our differences, to recognize our differences. It's important for all of us to stand up for what we believe in, and at the same time, listen to one another, try to understand one another, try to understand those who do not agree with us or who come from different backgrounds and different experiences. Try to understand one another before leaping to judgment. And so for me, that prayer service really did exemplify the spirit of Notre Dame. It was a nice example of what the spirit of Notre Dame is all about, and a real sign of hope.
I've so appreciated this conversation. I wonder if you'd indulge us in a little bit, to dig a little bit deeper into who you are. In our lightning round, could we do that?
Sure.
So these are easy questions.
Yeah.
I know you'll know the answers, but we are in this space that's always full of undergraduate students. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about your undergraduate experiences. So first off, where did you go to school? We'll start with you, Father Bob.
I was an undergraduate right here at Notre Dame. Yeah.
I was an undergraduate at Hampton Institute in Virginia, which is now Hampton University.
Very good. Okay, what was your favorite music to listen to in college? I'll start with you, Dr. Page.
I listened to everything.
Yeah?
From Elton John to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and a great variety of artists in between. Patti LaBelle, The Temptations, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, my goodness. Everything from soul to country to rock.
Yeah. Does that still stand today?
Yes, it does.
Yeah?
In fact, if you were to look at my personal playlist, you would see a variety of things that many of our undergraduates today may well not have heard of, but a few that have stood the test of time and may have heard of.
And you're actually a member of a band,
Yes,
right?
I play
The Oblate of Blues.
Oblates
of Blues.
playing the Oblates of Blues. So not something that I expected to be doing, but a passion I rediscovered after being a teenage musician in a basement band when I was in junior high school.
You're out of the garage, though. No more garage band days.
Right? No more garage band days.
What about you, Father Bob? What's on your playlist?
Well, I can't claim to be a member of a band, but when I was in school, I listened to a lot of U2, the Indigo Girls. My tastes were perhaps not as eclectic as Hugh's were in those days, and maybe still are, but they've become more eclectic over time. These days I listen to country as well as rock and pop. And of course, you know, we were so blessed to have John Baptiste here for the inauguration. And so I've got turned on to his music, which is really quite eclectic, speaking of eclectic.
Absolutely.
And appeals to so many people across generations. So I've been listening a lot more to John Baptiste these days.
Same. That's one of my favorite moments on campus to date. Okay, were you a study way ahead for a test type of student or cram the night before?
I would say I was somewhere in between. I probably could have done a better job of studying well in advance, but cramming was not my style. Some people, they're kind of last minute people and they're able to cram and do amazing work. For me, no, cramming was not my way of being. So
prepared,
being a little prepared. I tried my best to be prepared and not to cram.
What about you, Dr.
I was that wonderful late teenage mix of cramming and preparing ahead. And like Father Bob, I tried not to be too much on the cramming end, but I must admit, it took 3.5 years for me to move from cramming to advanced planning. So by the time I was a senior, I was a kind of work all the time sort of person, which served me well going into seminary and grad school.
That's good perspective. Okay, last question. Did you have any rituals or routines at the start of a new semester? I'll start with you, Dr. Page.
So are you talking about in the past or now?
Let's start with undergrad.
Yeah, you know, as an undergrad, our campus was located on a waterfront. And so there were two things that grounded me at the beginning of a year. Number one, connecting with students in late night conversation sessions. And the second was walking along the waterfront around sunset and didn't need to be with anyone else. There's just a kind of peace and contemplative dimension associated with that helped me prepare the way for the rest of the term.
Do you do something similar now?
Yeah, you know, I try and find time just to be by myself a little bit, to take in all of the campus activity. I really love the beginning of the academic year and the end of the academic year because it's so filled with things that are happening, lots of energy, and I like to take it all in. But I like to take it all in kind of as an observer who is completely connected to all of it. And so wandering around campus, no headphones, just taking in the noise. Taking in all the feelings that are there is a ritual that I enjoy.
Well, Jenna, I don't know that I had any at the beginning of the semester, any like particular rituals that I engaged in. But I will say, just hearing what Hugh had to say, I would say that for me, visiting the grotto and going for walks around the lakes, and also one place on campus that was special to me and still special to me is the Sacred Heart of Jesus statue just in front of the main building. And I used to walk to that statue. A lot of people would head to the grotto, and the grotto is a great place, a special place, no doubt about that. But when I felt a bit overwhelmed, or I felt like I needed a little support, a little space, I needed a little peace and perspective, I would walk to that statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and with the words, Ad me omnes, come to me, all of you, and just pray for the peace and perspective and strength that I need. And again, just like Mary on the dome, Jesus in that statue of the Sacred Heart, his arms are open, his hands open, ready to embrace, ready to give. And for me, that image is really inspiring and continues to inspire me to this day.
And Dr. Page, I see you nodding your head. That must be a place that has a little bit of your heart as well.
Absolutely. God quad overall, that statue in particular, just, it speaks to my heart as well.
Thank you for sharing, again, your time, a little bit of yourselves, and we're so grateful for your leadership here at Notre Dame. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks very
Jenna.
much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
For more about Notre Dame's commitment to building an ever more inclusive campus community, visit diversity.nd.edu. The executive producer of Notre Dame Stories is Andy Fuller, with producers Jenna Liberto, Josh Long, and Stacy Stikovich. Videography and editing is by Zach Dudka, Tony Fuller, Josh Long, and Michael Weens. Our music is by Alex Mansour, and I'm your host, Jenna Liberto.